She was called the descendant of Cleopatra, but she surpassed her great predecessor. She did not seduce emperors, she surpassed them. Welcome to the channel Fateful Women of the Ages. Here we examine and discuss the fates of women whose willpower and determination had an indelible, truly fateful impact on history. Palmyra in the 3rd century was not just a city, but a fiery hub of civilizations, stretching across the Syrian desert like a precious stone set in a golden frame of sand. The city grew up around a spring, a vital oasis on the caravan route between the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. This is a place where East meets West, not in an abstract sense, but literally. Greek philosophy clashes with Persian traditions, Roman legionaries drink water from the same wells as Arab traders, and Aramaic is spoken alongside Latin and Greek. Here, in the middle of the 3rd century, a girl was born into a noble family. A peaceful life awaited her, a profitable marriage, and a quiet life in her husband's shadow. But another fire burned in her soul. She found herself a mentor capable of creating a ruler who could argue with emperors on equal terms. Cassius Longinus, a Greek philosopher and rhetorician, arrived in Palmyra from Athens, where philosophy had become a secular pastime. Zenobiya was already married to Odenathus, the ruler of Palmyra, but her position as the second wife at court remained quite modest. She gave birth to an heir, fulfilled her woman's duty, but felt that this was not the life she desired. When she heard rumors about the arrival of a philosopher, a man who taught not only rhetoric but also systematic thinking, she herself initiated a meeting. According to legend, their first conversation lasted until dawn. Longinus saw before him not a typical queen thirsty for flattery, but a woman with a clear mind and great ambitions. They analyzed Roman legal texts so that she would understand the laws on which Roman power was based and where there were loopholes in them. They studied Greek rhetoric, words not for beauty, but for the ability to persuade, manipulate an audience, and create the necessary impression. Longinus taught her Egyptian, a language that unlocks ancient knowledge and, importantly, the loyalty of the Egyptian nobility should she ever have to rule Alexandria. He guided her through the texts of Herodotus, who wrote about Egypt, Semiramis, and the queens of antiquity who ruled like men and were either deified or cursed for it. Many lessons were devoted to history, not dates and names, but analysis of strategies. Longinus laid out maps and scrolls describing great conquests before her.
Plato says that philosophers should write history, but the world is cruel, my lady. It is ruled by swords.
Then my sword will guide philosophy. There were also more personal conversations, usually in the evening, when official classes were over and they were alone. Zenobiya asked questions that tormented her. Can a woman rule in the same way as a man without losing herself? Is it fair to use people as instruments of power? Which is more important, the welfare of the people or the greatness of the state? Longinus did not answer directly, but asked leading questions so that his student could draw her own conclusions. He never gave ready-made answers, understanding that power is an endless series of dilemmas with no obvious solutions. Odenathus, king of Palmyra and de facto defender of Rome's eastern borders, was killed during a campaign against the Goths, not on the battlefield, but at the hands of his own nephew, Meonius. The conspiracy matured in the shadow of the ruler's success. His military victory over the Persians and the title of King of Kings aroused the envy of his relatives and the anxiety of those who feared too close a rapprochement with Rome. The murder was swift and brutal. Along with Odenathus, his eldest son from his first wife was also killed, eliminating a direct rival to Zenobiya's young son. The official versions spoke of family strife and Meonius' ambitions, but Roman sources later hinted at Zenobiya's possible involvement, an accusation she always denied, but which gave her absolute power at a time when Palmyra was left without a strong ruler. So the world has collapsed. Her husband has been killed. She has a young son and heir in her arms. She is surrounded by enemies. The Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife, no longer protects the East. The Persians were thirsting for revenge. And in Palmyra itself, traitors were already dividing up power. The advisors in the throne room were unanimous.
A woman cannot rule. You must become regent, but the real power will be ours, or Rome's. Choose.
Zenobia slowly raises her head. There are no tears in her eyes, only ice. You offer me a choice between a golden cage and an iron one. I choose freedom. From now on, I am no longer regent. I am queen. And Palmyra is no longer a vassal state. It is an empire. It was unheard of, audacity bordering on madness. She executes the conspirators. She dons armor and personally leads the army. Zenobiya's campaigns after Odenathus' death transformed Palmyra from a regional trading center into an empire that controlled territory from Anatolia to Egypt. Taking advantage of the crisis in Rome following the death of Emperor Gallienus, Zenobiya launched a series of military campaigns. Her strategy was well thought out. She did not declare an open break with Rome, formally remaining loyal, but in fact seizing provinces under the pretext of protecting her borders from external threats. Then the Palmyran army, commanded by General Zabdas, invaded Egypt. The Palmyran troops advanced deep into the country before the Romans had time to send a single legion there. And by the end of the year, Alexandria, the richest city and a key trading center, had fallen. Control over Egypt gave Zenobiya not only a breadbasket, but also huge tax revenues from Alexandrian trade. In parallel with the Egyptian campaign, Zenobiya's troops captured all of Syria, Palestine, and Arabia. The Palmyrans then advanced into Asia Minor, conquered Galatia, and captured Ancyra, modern-day Ankara, marking the peak of Palmyra's territorial expansion. Zenobiya's possessions stretched from central Anatolia to Upper Egypt. Palmyra transformed from an oasis city into the center of a vast empire that controlled important trade routes, Egypt's grain resources, and Rome's rich eastern provinces. However, this expansion led to its downfall. Emperor Aurelian could not allow a female ruler to control a territory so important to Rome. Aurelian did not delay and personally led the campaign. The first battle took place at Emma, not far from Antioch. Zenobiya relied on her invincible heavy cavalry, but Aurelian resorted to trickery. His light cavalry feigned retreat, luring the Palmyran horsemen into a trap, wearing them down, and then the fresh legions destroyed them. The second battle took place at Emesa. Another defeat. Zenobiya's army was crushed. She retreated to Palmyra, hoping for its impregnable walls, but Aurelian laid siege to the city. At night, Zenobiya, dressed in a simple dress, fled from besieged Palmyra, trying to break through to the Persians for help. She was captured at the very crossing of the Euphrates. The end. Chained in gold chains, she was brought to Rome and led through the streets to be humiliated. But Zenobiya walked majestically, with her head held high. Rome expected to see a broken barbarian woman. Instead, it saw a queen. Her dignity impressed both the crowd and the emperor himself. Aurelian spared her life and even gave her a villa in Tibur, where she ended her days as a Roman matron. Her advisors, including the philosopher Longinus, were executed. Palmyra was destroyed. Historians say she lost. Her empire is just a ghost in the sand. But isn't that what greatness is all about? Challenging fate, knowing you could lose everything. Now here's a question for you. If Zenobiya had been less proud and compromised with Aurelian, could her dynasty have ruled the East for many more years? Or was it her unyielding pride that made her the person she is remembered as? What would you have done in her place in besieged Palmyra? Would you have fought to the end or surrendered to save your people? Would you risk everything you have achieved for an even greater, almost impossible goal? Zenobiya lost the war, but gained immortality. Because history remembers not those who lived quietly, but those who dared to be themselves. Write in the comments what choice you would make. And subscribe so you don't miss the stories of other women who weren't afraid to write history with their own hands.